I'm out of breath. We're gonna be going over the #1 booty building exercise, and it's nut squats. So I'm gonna show you everything you need to know about form, setting up, and placement so you can get the most out of this exercise and build your booty, build your booty, build your booty, build your booty. Build your booty, build your booty, build your booty. So first thing you want to make sure you have is a bar pad. So this is going to protect your hips because it hurts a lot when you don't have one. So this one's actually kind of thin. I would actually recommend a thicker one. So don't just rely on your gym for that. I would say just get your own so you know you haven't. So you can get them at most supplement stores, at sports equipment stores, tons of places. Just get your own. And then you want to find a bench that's not too high. I mean, these are steppers, but basically you don't want it any higher than your knee, otherwise the angling is a little bit off. So obviously I have this quite a bit lower than my knee. That's kind of a personal preference thing. The angle just feels right like that, but up to your knee is about as high as you want to go. At one of the other gyms I go to, the benches are all super, super high, so I use their bench press benches because it's an appropriate height. So keep that in mind. Okay, so setup. Obviously you're gonna put your bar pad on your bar, and then you wanna make sure everything is centered, because there's nothing worse than when you come up to the top of your hip thrust and the bar is out of balance. So you wanna make sure your hips are centered. You can just focus on the bar detailing to make sure. Obviously you want to make sure the bar pad is centered, and then you want to make sure your back, on this it doesn't matter as much if it's centered, but it can help a little bit. Oh, and another thing I forgot to mention is whether you're using a bench or something like this, you have to have it up against the wall, otherwise you'll be like pushing it back, or an elliptical. So yeah, then you're gonna have your upper back on the bench. Everything is all centered. You're gonna put your feet into place, and then you are going to squeeze up. Okay, so we're gonna talk about foot positioning. So you want to make sure you're gonna have them about shoulder width apart. You can have them a little bit wider, but you don't want them too wide. It's kind of a personal preference thing. One of those things where you have to just play around with it as you do the exercise. So I've got mine around shoulder width. You want your toes slightly pointing out, nothing like crazy, but you don't want them like in or even straight forward. So slightly out. And then again, my back is centered so the bench is under my shoulder blades. And then as we go up, we want to make sure we can kind of play around with foot positioning. That's kind of a thing where when you're warming up, especially, that's a good time to test it out. And when you come up, you want to make sure your knee and your ankle, your knee should be at like a 90-degree angle. You don't want them really far in, you don't want them really far out. You can put them a little further out if you are feeling the movement too much in your quads. Like if they're here and all you're feeling is like quad, 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 you can, again, play around with it, maybe make it a little bit wider, and see how you feel. Okay, so when you're performing the hip thrust, you really want to focus on driving your hips up. You want to make sure you're getting full range of motion, otherwise you're not going to engage your glutes as well. So you're gonna squeeze up, and you don't want to just end here. Your hips should actually be above your knees. So we're really squeezing up here. You want to think of rotating your pelvis in. You don't want like your butt sticking out. You're tucking your pelvis. You're almost kind of crunching in your abs to allow your glutes to really squeeze up. And you're just going to maintain that positioning. So even when you lower, like you don't want your butt really, really sticking out. You still want to keep your pelvis somewhat tucked to protect your lower back, and then squeeze up. So always make sure it's up high. And another thing that you want to focus on is not having your head back. You don't want to be going like this. You want your chin tucked, and you're going to focus on a spot ahead of you. So then it will look like this. And another thing that you always want to make sure is that you're controlling the weights on the way down. You don't want to just be dropping it. keep it really controlled. Squeeze, squeeze the glutes, and squeeze up. Okay, so a big problem that some of my clients and followers have had is when you're not quite at the point where you're using a 45-pound plate and your gym doesn't have bumper plates, so you're like, how do I get myself under the bar? So if that happens, what you want to do is prop up your plate on either another plate, or if your gym had steppers, you could use that as well, and you could use multiple plates. So if you were only using a 10-pound plate, this would probably not be enough. So if this was 10 pounds, you could stack 2 or more other plates underneath it. So that way, you can squeeze your lovely self under the bar very gracefully. It's still not the most graceful, you know, but alright. Sometimes that's what you gotta do. So then there we are. So we're here, we're under the bar. It is sometimes, depending on the plates you use, it's a little rickety, as you can see. So just still make sure that you're all centered. And then other than that, everything else will be the same. And then you would just thrust up. And then when it comes to lowering, just be careful that you're in the right spot. And then roll it out. Roll yourself out. And ta-da! So another thing you could do if your gym doesn't have bumper plates is use a lighter bar. So this looks like a regular barbell, but this is only 15 pounds. So you could use a 45-pound plate on this. If you're at that level. If you're brand new, it still might be too much. But if you're at that point where you could do that weight, you could do this instead of propping up your bar on the plates, because it's a little bit easier. So that is another option. Another option for you. The bar just made a really weird noise. It was like, I don't think you guys could hear it, but that is a good option as well. And the reason you would want to do this instead of the preloaded bars, like you know how some gyms have little bars and they're preloaded, those would be really hard to slide yourself under. I think even if you had it under plates, it would still be really hard, because even if it's an 100-pound preloaded bar, it's just kind of like, it's small. So I don't really recommend using those. This is a good option. So a really easy way to set up your hip thrust, this is the last way, is with a Smith machine. While it's not my personal first choice, there's nothing really wrong with using a Smith machine for hip thrusts. I would never recommend it for squats or deadlifts just because of the bar path. But for hip thrusts, especially if you're just learning, it can be a really great way to start off, and it's a lot easier to set it up. So Smith machines can kind of vary, but I'm just gonna explain as best I can, and hopefully this will suit your Smith machine. So you wanna make sure that the safety things are lowered as much as possible. You don't want them up here, otherwise it's gonna stop your range of motion. So you wanna make sure those are lowered. Obviously, you want this lowered. And then you're still gonna want a bar pad. And the most challenging part for this would just be making sure the bench is in the correct position. So you wouldn't want it, you might start off, actually this is probably just right, but it would be easy to start off and be like, too far. You'd be like, okay, this is on my quads. You also wouldn't want to start up way too close, because then it would be on your upper hips. Like if it's like the bench is here and you're squeezing in like this, there's a good sign it's too close, way too close. This would hurt if you're in your stomach. So yeah, if that happens, it's actually easier to just kind of push it out. That's a really easy way to get it into correct position. Have it too close, get yourself on here, and then just kind of push out. So I just have it placed on my upper hips, and then everything else is the same. So you want to unrack it, and then you're going to lower and squeeze up. So sometimes people will want to like not hold onto the bar. You can do that, but it does tend to, once you actually have weights on here, it's going to tend to clip in on itself and then get stuck. So just kind of keep a hand on it, and then everything else is the same. You can play around with foot positioning. You're going to want to make sure you're going up high enough, tucking your chin, and stare at yourself in the mirror in your own eyes lovingly. It's a little bit, it's an interesting view. And find that you could do a little bit more weight because typically Smith machines make things a little bit easier because it helps you a little bit. But it's a good variation, and that is how you can do it on the Smith machine. Woo! So when you're doing hip thrusts, as usual, you always want to be focusing on progressive overload in order to actually see glute growth. You can't just be going through the motions. You should be aiming to add weight. You should be aiming to add reps. But within that, there's some other variations you can do as well. You can do these with a band. This is actually really helpful if you're finding your glutes are not engaging. I was like, engaging glutes a little bit. It's very helpful because you're going to be pushing against the band. So you can either put it above or below your knees. And then other than that, everything is going to be the same. So you're just going to wiggle yourself on in. And you will find that the weight you're doing is a little harder with this on, but it feels, it's a real burner. And then up you go. Sometimes I actually find it's more challenging if you place the band under your knees because you kind of have to push even further. That is another thing to always focus on when you're doing hip thrusts. Make sure your knees aren't caving, whether you have a band or not. So, up and squeeze. That really burns. And then another thing you can do is focus on tempo. So I usually like to really hold and squeeze at the top on my last rep. So say I'm doing 8 to 10 reps, I'll be doing, I'll be going up. I do always like to squeeze a bit. Well, I mean, no, you always should be squeezing at the top, but I will always do like a 1 second hold. But on my last one, rather than just pausing for like a second, I will like hold, and I'll just hold, and I'll be like, and I'll hold, and then I'll lower. And then you just like sit there and you die. Sometimes when you do these, you feel like a glute pump in between sets when you're sitting here, and I'll just be like, I'll be sitting in the gym and I'll be like, it just like hurts to sit on them. So that's how you know it's a real good burner, because that's another thing you want to focus on is you do want to make sure you're feeling the movement in your glutes. If you're new at the movement and you load too much weight onto the bar, you might not be feeling the movement as correctly, your quads might take over, so you do want to make sure form is always on point and you're feeling things, because while adding weight is very important and something I always recommend, form is obviously number one. Okay, so for the last thing I'll go over is just another variation. So this is glute bridges. So it's very similar, except you don't have a bench. You're just lying on the floor. So something I have found is helpful with this movement is to lie on a yoga mat. Otherwise you kind of start to slide, which is really annoying. So other than that, it's very similar. You're wanting like your knees to be, you want your foot to be right under your knee, like you don't want them all the way out or way too far in. You want it like that. You would want the bar positioned over your hips, obviously centered, and then you're gonna kind of dig your shoulder blades into the ground, and then you thrust up, and then you lower. So same thing with this, you really want to make sure your pelvic is, you have like a pelvic tilt. You don't want to be like, keep it tucked, so you're getting a good range of motion. So the main difference with a glute bridge is it's a smaller range of motion, and it actually activates your glutes a little bit more and your quads a little bit less. So you could incorporate both into your routine. I definitely prefer hip thrusts, but I will do these here and there. Sometimes if like the proper bench is not available, I'll do these because I'm not gonna go and do them on a really high bench. So that's a good option. You might feel it in your hamstrings a little bit more too. So it is still a good variation. You might even find that you can do more weight with these. That's kind of like an individual thing. But yeah, so those are your hip thrust number one. and glute bridge number 2. And they're both a fantastic way to build your glutes. Alrighty guys, and that is everything you need to know about hip thrusting and a little bit of glute bridging. And now you can go and build a beautiful booty. But make sure you don't neglect other movements. You still want to do your squats, you still want to do your deadlifts, your lunges, all that jazz. Just because these are the #1 booty building exercise or one of the best ones doesn't mean you only want to do these. Trust me, I did that back in the day. I thought my quads were too big, so I was like, I'm only gonna do hip thrusts, and it didn't look good. So keep up your other compound movements as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful, check out one of my other videos for more tips. And that is all. I will see you guys in the next one. And if you guys liked this video, please like and subscribe. Bye.